Hey everybody, I just want to take a few minutes on this newsletter. I'm going to post some information that has been made available to me so that I can share it with you. I feel like the information's more than relevant and very important as far as the real estate market is concerned. So I hope that you'll stick with me. I'm just going to make some adjustments real fast and then we'll talk about everything as we're going to go over. Okay. So here we go. We're going to talk about 5 questions today, and I'm going to try and do this as briefly and succinct as I can because, let's be honest, I can ramble on when I want to. So 5 questions. Listen, the information that we're talking about today is we're talking about what's coming next and what do we do about right now. First one is, when is the economy going to recover? Are we going into a recession? Is this going to be like 2008? What about all those job losses? And what should I do right now? All key questions. These are key important things that we're going to discuss. But first, when is the economy going to recover? So I'm going to preface everything I'm going to say in this conversation. The information that's on these slides comes from a data aggregation service that I use that provides information to agents and to everyone else. As far as it relates to real estate economics and services. So all the sources that are in here are quoted. If you have a question about any of the sources, please let me know. These are not my opinions. These are aggregated data from other sources. Well, for all intents and purposes, the economy has been put on pause. It's just somebody stop, hit the pause button, and at some point, somebody's going to hit the play button. Once we all get out of our houses, we all get back to work, there will be some pent-up demand. There will also be some lagging demand in the economy as far as what we're looking at. With people going out shopping again, people returning to normal behaviors, and some behaviors are frankly going to be changed, and there's nothing we can really do about that. But all of these different things point to the same thing that the major financial institutions are calling for. So we're talking about Goldman Sachs, we're talking about Morgan Stanley, and we're talking about JP Morgan. So all of them are calling for a V-shaped recovery. And you probably have seen this, you probably heard it, but I'm going to drive this point home. Some of them are more conservative than others, some are more aggressive. They all see that right now we're having a little bit of a downturn. We're going to bottom out sometime in Q2. And then by Q3, we're going to be back on our way back up. What does that mean? Well, right now, we're kind of in that 90-day period since this whole thing started, in which we are experiencing one hell of a ride, if you will, in the financial markets and as far as everyone's ability to work, because not everybody can work. Coming out really soon on May 8th, I want you to remember this date. May 8th is when the next unemployment numbers come out. Historical analysis showed us that in pandemics are usually V-shaped, sharp recessions that recover quickly enough to provide little damage to home prices. And some very cutting-edge search engine analysis by our information management team showed the current slowdown is playing out similarly thus far. That's John Burns Consulting Firm. Another one, Harvard Business Review. It's worth looking back at history to place the potential impact of COVID-19 empirically. In fact, V-shapes monopolize the empirical landscape of prior shocks, including epidemics such as SARS, the 1968 H3N2 Hong Kong flu, and the 1958 H2N2 Asian flu, and the 1918 Spanish flu. Harvard Business Review for you. So the real question is, are we going into a recession? Well, that's an interesting thought. Let's take a look at some of the differences. Recession does not equal a housing crisis. I have tried to drive this point home, and I've sent the following information to clients, and I hope that you take it very seriously and look at it and ask questions, because much of this data is aggregated and I feel like brilliant, and it lends itself to opportunity, if anything. So let's talk about it real fast. With the exception of 2 recessions, the Great Recession from 2007 and 2009, and the Gulf War recession of 1990 and 1991, no other recessions have impacted the U.S. housing market, according to Freddie Mac Home Price Index data collected from 1975 to 2018. So take a close look at this slide and burn it in your brain. Out of the last recessions, the last 5 recessions we've seen, only twice has prices really fallen. Okay, this is important because when 2008, obviously being the largest, was because that recession was caused by the housing market. We're just not in the same place right now at all. In fact, what we're seeing is the polar opposite. And we'll discuss that here really quickly. So, is this going to be like 2008? No. Many still bear scars from the Great Recession and may expect the housing market to follow a similar trajectory in response to the coronavirus outbreak. But there are distinct differences that indicate that the housing market may follow a much different path. While the housing market led to the recession in 2008-2009, this time it may be poised to bring us out of it. Huh? What? Wait, why? Well, we're going to get into that. All right. Look, this is a general chart showing price corrections from the mortgage industry and from the housing market versus the S&P 500 during the Great Recession. We saw some annual depreciation across the board, but look at the S&P 500, over 51%. That's a huge correction. What 9/11 has in common with what is happening today is that the shock has also generated fear, angst, and anxiety among the general public. People avoided crowds then as they believed that another terrorist attack was coming and are acting the same way today to avoid getting sick. The same parts of the economy are under pressure. Airlines, leisure, hospitality, restaurants, entertainment, consumer discretionary services in general. So when we look at the dot-com crash and the 9/11 crash, again, we're talking about home prices appreciated versus a 45% correction in the S&P 500. Notice something different. Well, the fundamentals were different. In fact, when we look at home annual appreciation over time, the 6 years leading up to the housing crash was far above what we've been seeing here the last 6 years. Totally different ballgame. In fact, it's been very muted comparably. From 4.4 to 6.4%, it's still a very reasonable rate of appreciation when historical factors show that it's 3%. So it is above average, but it's not what the years leading up to the housing crash. In fact, part of this is due to the fact that the availability of mortgage. Getting a mortgage and the availability of it is shown on this chart. As you can see, during the housing bubble, we saw in 2006 that getting a mortgage was super easy. In fact, if you had a heartbeat, you could get a mortgage. In fact, I think a couple of dead people got some mortgages too. But as of now, it stayed pretty consistent. Strict criteria. The lending standards are reviewed double time, and I can assure you of that from the files that I've tried to get through as of late. Double reviews, triple reviews. So it's not easier to get a loan right now, which led to the bubble that we saw. Next thing we're going to look at is months of home inventory for sale. Now, there's 3 numbers here. Only 2 are on this page. In 2007, it was 8.2. Remember, this is national aggregate, so it's not we're not talking about LA. Versus 3.1 months of supply for sale. In Los Angeles, this is the part that's not on this slide. In Los Angeles, as of today, I was reviewing the numbers for LA County. For LA County, it's 2.2 months of supply. To be a buyer's market, you have to have 6 months of supply. That's the marker. And we're not even close to it. Let's talk about it for a second, the total equity cashed out and by refinance. During the housing crash and prior leading up to it, everybody was using their house like a massive credit card. And so they were refinancing like mad. What this did is it created a glut of cash to run out and do stuff, but it also created a massive disaster when things turned. The amount of equity in people's homes, we're going to get to that slide in a second, was diminished. versus now. Now, very reasonable, not excessive at all, especially when you look at the total aggregate value of the entire housing market in this country. So what does this lend itself to? Well, all of the homes that are out there out in the US, 53% of them have more than 50% equity. Okay, pause and think about that for a second, because this should allay some of your fears. If people have at least 50% equity in their homes across the US, in general, in broad spectrum, and the last housing crash on average was just a 20% pullback, that doesn't add up to everyone defaulting and running for the hills. Not at all. In fact, people are more secure in their homes today than they ever have been. And I think if any lesson has been learned during the previous recession, the Great Recession, people learned that they actually wanted to have mortgages paid down rather than use it like a credit card. So a lesson was learned here, and it's paying dividends right now. So what does that lead us to? It lends us to another point, which is the percent of median income needed to buy a home. Okay, listen, guys, I know this is national numbers. This is not Los Angeles. We know that these numbers in Los Angeles do not add up at all. In fact, you have to spend 30, 40% in some cases, which is the final marker, by the way. You can't spend more than a certain amount of your income every single year on your housing. They won't lend you the money. So you'd have to put more down. Well, these are not us, but this is the nation. It's a demonstration of where mortgage payments are nationwide. It adds security to the fact that the likelihood of having a recession caused by the housing market or a housing market fallout, it's not there. It's very low. I hope you'll take that point sincerely. So what about all those job losses? It's a great question. You know, when we look at the unemployment statistics over the, this is unprecedented. This has never happened. I mean, in 2 weeks, 7 million, and we're going to find out more on May 8th. Please ingrain that date in your head. May 8th, I'll say it again, when the unemployment numbers come out for April, we're going to have a pretty whole kind of number of the impact at this point. That said, and this is unprecedented, the number of jobs that have come out. But let's break down where these jobs came from, where all these job losses are. 60% almost were food and beverage servers and bartenders, including managers and basically any F&B has been laid off or furloughed. I like to use the term furloughed because most of those spots are going to open back up. If you were to add that to the hospitality industry, well, now that's on this chart, it's called the accommodation industry, but let's call it the hospitality industry, hotels, motels, etc. Again, many of those are just furloughed. They're going back to work. Retail trade stores, retail stores. I mean, those people are going back to work. And if they're not, they're going to get replaced. Once the stores can open again and people can shop again, those people will be there. Temporary help services. Well, obviously, trying to find, temporary employment is kind of put on the kibosh right now, so there's not much to do about it. But once the economy opens up again and the employment opens up a little bit, there's absolutely going to be need for temporary employment services and temporary help services. They're going back to work. Child daycare workers. Okay, this is a no-brainer. Some of you guys have been trapped in your house for more than 30 days with your kids. I'm almost positive that you guys are going to drop them off at daycare. Those people are going back to work, if not overtime, when they're done. Healthcare office workers. Okay, listen, not everybody in the healthcare industry is really working right now. Some of them, many are doctors' office workers, back office workers for doctors' offices. They're not working right now. In fact, they're kind of sitting at home just like everybody else. Once the standard doctor's offices, dentist's offices, eye care doctors can open back up, those people will go back to work. Okay? Construction workers. Some construction workers are busier than ever, and others are off work. It just depends on the area and which market sector you're talking about. Many of those are going to go back to work. So what's the point of this? Well, all these points, these bullet points of information really kind of help shape the picture of what that V-shaped recovery is going to look like. I mean, when we're sitting here talking about it, and you think about, okay, the economy opens up, all these people who got unemployed, they're going back to work, that should allay some fears and should help you to better understand where we're coming from and what we're doing. That said, the unemployment rate predicted by Goldman Sachs currently is 15% for this year. Will drop down by half, more than half, somewhere in there in 2021. By 2022, it was to be 5%, and 2023, it should be down to 4%. These are the big brains on Wall Street, or look at the big brain on Brad. Yes, I had to pull out a Pulp Fiction reference. But the unemployment rates and home sales do not correlate. They don't correlate at all. They don't have a relationship. In fact, we can look at home sales versus unemployment rates, and there's just not any kind of a match at all. So the current unemployment rate compared to past financial crisis and the current crisis, as you can see, the unemployment rates of the Great Depression were astronomical, almost 25% by 1933. During the Great Recession, we saw a peak of 9.9%, almost 10% in 2009. Which was kind of like the depths of the recession. The current crisis, though, yeah, we're spiked up to 15%. Will probably correct itself by the end of the year. 2021, again, we're going to see the numbers fall dramatically back into line. What should I do right now? Well, this is a great question. Listen, home ownership is an important source of wealth creation. Enabling current homeowners and succeeding generations to move up the economic ladder. There's no truer statement. Anytime you look at the data, the people who are homeowners are always worth more than the renters at the end of the day. You can't change it. It's an automatic forced savings plan. Based on the current numbers and stats that we have to work with right now, the likelihood of having a severe housing market pullback, it's just not there. Not for foreclosures, not for distressed sales. I think some of the fluff might be taken out of the market. You know, some of those people who are throwing out some pretty crazy numbers on their houses, that's going to be removed. But the general home market itself is continuing on. In fact, from the data that I'm watching right now, there are sales happening. People are closing deals, and you can sell your house if you need to right now. You can buy a house right now. You can buy an investment property right now. You just need to follow the standards that are in place. And that's it. But that said, everyone's situation is different, and some of you may need to have a consultation for purposes just because things have changed for yourselves. If that is the case, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Let's take my time. I'm here helping you guys, so my time is free. Give me a call. Let's talk about it. Let's review your situation and your circumstance. That said, there's also opportunity in the market to purchase and invest. And if that is you, you need to give me a call, because there are opportunities popping up that I'm seeing that people need to take advantage of right now. And if you're qualified and you have the down payment and the income, you should take advantage of it. If you have any questions, I'm here to help. If you made it to the end of this video, I'm impressed. It's a long one. Have a great day. I look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care.